So if you're just tuning in, you're right in time for Social Square this Friday morning, and today we're taking a look at the impact of social media. And you at home can be part of this conversation, or if you're moving up and about right now, if you're on your way to work in a matatu and you're streaming live, thank you so much. So you can simply tweet us at Citizen TV Kenya, or you can even text in on 22422. If you have credit, please call in on 0719777777. The impact of social media. With me, I still have Mark Kaigwa. He's a digital entrepreneur and founder of Nendo. They are sort of like a research firm based on matters digital. We'll get to hear some of the numbers and statistics that he'll share with us in just a few minutes. At the center, we have Nelly Ndonye. She is a LinkedIn marketing solution rep for Africa. LinkedIn is one of the biggest firms, digital firms really in the world when it comes to where employers and employees meet. And we have Alfred Ongeri, the founder of Artificial Intelligence Kenya. We were teasing him behind the scenes, but these are the people who are taking our jobs. AI, Nisara too. It's all right. It's all good. So, and let me begin with you, Mark, because you have the numbers, you have the statistics, thanks to Nendo. Where do we stand as a country in terms of how many Kenyans are online? How many Kenyans are active where? Are we more active on Twitter because we make so much noise as KOT vis-a-vis on Facebook? Yeah.
Sure. So I think we've just published well, not just published, it's been out since the first quarter of the year, but we have a report called The State of Mobile Data, and it just looks to where Kenyans spend their bundles online. And in that report, we tried to just establish a baseline of a few sources to come up with an idea or to answer some of these questions. So one of the ones was how many internet users are there in Kenya, and there is the Communications Authority statistics, which we have in there at the time, thanks to their quarterly update at being 42.1 million Kenyans. But there's multiple views on the topic, meaning that the CEO of Google in Kenya in October of last year at a breakfast event where they were launching a number of Google services for Africa mentioned 13 million. You have a website called Internet World Stats, which says 21 million. And then you have the CIA World Factbook, which says 12 million. So the point is, there's multiple views on the topic. The hardest number to actually get to, Zinzi, is actually the unique number of internet users. So if we have internet subscriptions or if we have internet devices, you have a number of those. But how many Kenyan internet users are there? I mean, Nendo's estimate would be in the realm of 15 plus million, in give or take a few. And there's other numbers to probably validate that. Some more conservative, some more, I'd say some more generous in terms of the actual number of internet users we have in the country today.
So why the variation? 13 million, 21 million, 12 million?
It all comes down to your methodology and how you're tracking. Okay. So the truth is that I believe with the Communications Authority, not only do they have what are called operator returns, which means that they actually count on internet service providers to report on themselves. And so there's that element too. And within the framework of the methodology, there was and perhaps still is an assumption around what every fiber connection means, and it's been documented both in our report and elsewhere that we cite that 100 people were estimated to be connected to one fiber connection, and there may be some reasons not to find that the very best way to calculate internet users, especially if you're talking about unique users. So therefore there's almost a level of being a little conservative about this number, which is a good thing because it means we have some ways to go, some ways to grow, and really opens up the potential for us with social media and the internet at large.
All right, speaking of the internet at large, Nelly, job hunting has changed in this day and age. Your Twitter, your Facebook, your LinkedIn profile typically now become your digital CV. It's more even important, your digital footprint. But does LinkedIn work? Will it help me get a job? Will it help me get a project? As a young person, should I consider LinkedIn and take it seriously? Because we've seen what social media has been able to do when it comes to both getting a job and retaining a job. I think we've seen people who have been fired because they posted something about their Friday night. Your boss doesn't want to see what you did on Friday night. And there are people who have posted their work online, and from that they've gotten clients and jobs. So does it work?
Oh my God, yes it does. So let's start with LinkedIn is the most trusted social media platform, and this is like the second year running we've been ranked the most trusted by Forbes. And it's also, think about it, the one social media profile that's consistently updated. When you change jobs, you update. When you've attended a conference, you kind of want to put something up. When you think about your Facebook or your Twitter, when was the last time you updated that you changed jobs? You know, it's one of those platforms whereby you'll always go back and update. So that's one factor that makes it a premium platform. Number two, it works because you present your best self. And when people come onto LinkedIn, their frame of mind is different compared to the other social media platforms. When you're on Facebook or Twitter, even if you search yourself internally, you're going there to spend time, see what people are doing. It's very casual. Even your mental state, you look for some funny videos. But when you actually go onto LinkedIn, your frame of mind is different. You're looking to learn. You're looking to hear what's happening in the industry, and that definitely puts you in the frame of mind that whatever you're also putting out is the same thing. There was a report that was done comparing a PR video that was done by a company, and they experienced some bad PR, and it was posted on Facebook and posted on LinkedIn. The company got two types of feedback. On Facebook, they were bashed more, but on LinkedIn, they were given advice on how it shouldn't happen again. So the frame of mind of the audience is different. So people present their best selves, and when you present your best self, then an employer looks at you as a valuable resource. So there are great opportunities on LinkedIn because your frame of mind when you're on that platform is the same way you would be in the office. You use correct English in sentences. You want to share. You want other people to learn. You want to teach other people. You want to contribute to conversations. So yes, it does work. I've actually been headhunted twice off of LinkedIn, and I've spoken to other people who've experienced the same thing, or they've gotten projects because you've done a project, you've created a case study, and you've shared it there. So a lot of projects, jobs come out of LinkedIn, but it's about engaging.
So does my boss want to know what I did Friday night? Where I was? What burger I had for lunch?
Well, it depends. If you're in the entertainment ecosystem, of course your boss wants to see where you were, what you were doing. But in the professional ecosystem, people want to see what's your experience. What are you sharing in terms of knowledge? So yes, your boss will still check both. In fact, most people these days, when you schedule a meeting and someone you don't know, you kind of look them up first, so you know what experience do they have, what were they updating most recently, so you kind of have a place to start from a conversation perspective.
Alfred, let me rope you in. Do young people understand the power of their digital footprint online, especially when it comes to fresh people who are just out of university and they're sort of looking for jobs? Do young people understand what it is that you post online could either get you that job or lose you that job?
Yeah, I think most of them, they haven't realized the power of online. So at some point, you need to be very careful about what you post on Twitter, what you post on LinkedIn, the kind of names you use. So Kenyans have a very, giving themselves very unique nicknames online. So you don't want to transfer that to platforms like LinkedIn. You want to be very formal. You want to share your thoughts on different topics. You want to show people that you are knowledgeable. So they really need to be keen in terms and really differentiate the kind of content they post on Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat even, and Instagram also.
And actually, LinkedIn audience self-regulate. So when you'll find that if you're a consistent user, you'll find that when someone posts something that's probably, let's contextualize it as very casual content, the community will actually tell them this is not the space for that. So the platform actually self-regulates such that the content consistently remains high-value content. So even for someone who's new to the platform and they're thinking they can carry their profile from Facebook to LinkedIn, their casual conversations, they will be regulated by the community.
So we've seen what social media hasn't been able to do in terms of employability, which is fantastic, but there's also the negative side, such as cyberbullying, depression and anxiety, the fear of missing out, etc. In Kenya, still till today, the Cyberbullying Act hasn't been passed. It's still collecting dust in Parliament. Mark, are we taking this seriously as a nation?
I think there's obviously many bits of impact around social media, many which we aren't even able to conclusively speak about yet. We are all living in what I would call a controlled experiment right now, meaning that we cannot compare necessarily to our grandparents' generation, and yet our parents could to a certain extent. There's a new generation that's just come now, that's coming of age. Somebody who is the age of 18 now was born in the year 2001. And so what that tells us now is that they know a world with M-Pesa. They are getting into a world where they have artificial intelligence algorithms that are waiting for them to turn 18, get a mobile money account, and will start to offer loans to them. You have sports betting and gaming and gambling companies that also look at them as a ripe and very core part of their market. And because of that, and because of general upbringing, I mean, we're seeing people form and shape their identities through the camera phone now. So people are basically, before we even looked at, I think, like some of the more negative consequences, where there's a lot of what I'd call a lack of certainty and a lack of evidence. So even right now you can have, like screen time is terrible for children under the age of 5, and screen time is actually like redemptive and actually good in like early childhood development. You have studies which still contradict one another, and now all that shows is that the rate of change and just some of the challenges we're having, platforms like YouTube, which have seen their algorithm manipulated to wrongly influence children and surface almost addictive content for them, even within cartoons, and what seems, if you're looking at somebody's screen, as something pretty commonplace or easy. And on the flip side, you have, of course, this idea that you can use that screen time for behavioral science at a young age. So the point more is that even before we come to the draft there, I mean, I want to know, where was it drafted from? What evidence basis does it have? Can it be used punitively to punish people who are freely expressing their constitutional right to express themselves? But because there is a challenge there around cyberbullying, mental health. I had it put this way. There's a gentleman called Tim Elmore, who's an author in the US, and he talked about American teens and said that they have anxiety comparable to Vietnam War veterans, and that's just some of their everyday. And some of that discontent and that mental anxiety, which is manufactured or accelerated by screen time. And so I'm not saying take away the screens, I'm just saying empathize with people at that level of exposure and just this constant need to seek out affirmation through these digital channels. That what he was basically saying is that his larger topic is we need generational diversity in the workplace, because in the US they're letting go of older people to stock it fully with like young startup yuppies, if you like, and Generation Z. But they in and of themselves require kind of sometimes the full picture of just what generations can do to add a sense of diversity, the way we have ethnic diversity and gender diversity in workplaces. So point is, by the time we're coming back to this bill or any kind of legislative process, we've got to also be looking at the larger territory and saying that people behind screens do speak offensively, do speak in ways that they're less likely to speak face to face. There's almost a courage that comes from that. Some people actually seek out the notoriety. They actually want to become infamous for their abuse, for their creativity of being no holds barred and very brazen and bold, whereas what we're seeing is that they're being almost deeply offensive, if not harmful, in their speech. So that's I think the challenge of our time, and there's both a larger context to read it in, and then there's obviously like black and white on a piece of paper that hopefully at some point, like you're saying, will get passed.
Mark, let me tell you the truth, my mind is still on that example of anxiety is compared to someone who was in the Vietnam War. My goodness.
Yeah, the idea there is to give it a bit more context, is he was citing a study where just the mental health challenges people have now.
Yes.
And he picked anxiety. Of course, you have depression, and that's obviously, both of those need to be clinically diagnosed. So it's not like somebody can just pronounce it upon someone. You need a medical professional to do that. But it's this idea that like this world we're looking at through screens, especially for those of us who are more and more connected, there's a way it can actually make you, feel a sense of discontentment, and that left to its own devices without a more balanced approach towards life can actually affect your mental health.
Nelly, what is it about social media that people can hide behind and be abusive and bully others online?
I think it's the anonymity it provides, because you can create whatever persona you want to create. In some ways, these personas are actually storytellers, and some of them are good, but then there's also the flip side of it. I think it's about the person who will bully online will also bully offline.
Really?
So it's about the people's upbringings and experiences, and just how society handles such issues, because even someone being bullied, we can still have those conversations online and offline to just manage how they handle the bullying that happens. But from a legislation perspective, I know as far as technology goes, we'll always be behind, because there'll always be new technology coming in and new challenges coming in, and legislation will have to follow. I think what we need to do, and what governments need to consider, is just passing those or reviewing and making those decisions around legislation faster, so as to protect
But how do we do that also without infringing the freedom of expression?
I don't necessarily think that it will always infringe. I think it's about investing the right resources towards this legislation, and investing the right amount of time. It's all about being efficient. Let me call it that. It's about being efficient, because we will not stop creating new stuff out of technology. That is going to continue to happen. But we can't be always late with legislation, because that allows a big gap. Look at GDPR. It was I think it was legislated in May last year in Europe. We started writing ours a long time ago, and it's still yet to get finalized. So we just need to be more efficient in the way we handle the legislation. That way we can protect more people.
And speaking of efficiency, Alfred, do you feel as if Silicon Valley, the Facebooks, the Twitters, the Googles, do they understand the level of which the seriousness of some of these negative aspects, the too much screen time, the anxiety and depression that comes with their platforms, the fear of missing out, etc., the cyberbullying that on their platform that they provide? Do you feel as if they have seriously understood that they see the seriousness of this?
Yes, I think they do, and we see this in the way that platforms like Facebook are trying to give other content creators, the users of the platform, the power to shoot down any abusive content. They're even using artificial intelligence to detect fake news, and to also detect things like images that might affect some kind of people. So let's say very graphical images. These days you see that they always blur them out, and then they ask you if you'd like to see those images. So that they're really making an effort towards protecting the users in terms of privacy and in terms of cyberbullying.
Can they do more?
Yes, they can do more.
Yeah, I think maybe to his point, just in terms of the recent past, so he's mentioned the artificial intelligence side. YouTube has just come from banning, I think, a large number, in the thousands, of creators who violate, and they've always wanted to be neutral. So they've also been criticized for not doing enough. But just, I think over the last week and a half, they've banned thousands of creators who have basically very radical content, and some of that was actually artificially, it's a balance between using artificial intelligence and human eyes to determine that. I think for Facebook, they have a dedicated team who've been there removing what they call inauthentic coordinated behavior. So if you look on their corporate blog, they discuss this. And there was actually a company based in Israel that had been operating in several African countries and pursuing this, meaning that they were infiltrating the electoral processes and generally this question of meddling of Russia, some of the same playbook similarly done by Iran was being done here, and they were actually marketing that as a service to various stakeholders. So you have, I think, these corporates and these companies taking some steps. Question is whether it's enough. For Twitter, I think they're the ones who still almost the most to do. They've in Kenya, they've actually given permanent bans to some individuals who even had verified accounts over the last 2 years. Some are bloggers, some are organizations and institutions, but those permanent suspensions have held in the sense that any additional Twitter account that is registered in that person's name basically cannot stand, and they've left these individuals no choice but to pursue another platform.
All right.
And maybe, just to speak on brands, I think especially the bigger brands who are putting higher investments on these platforms, they have actually gotten to a point whereby they're pushing the platform owners to add more human interaction with content, because a lot of it, yes, it's evaluated by technology. So AI is doing a great job, but there's still a lot of learning, machine learning that it still has to do. So what they've done is that they've influenced them to also add on more human interaction with the content, because a person knows this is not right.
Okay.
But what else I've seen them doing is white labeling the platforms they want to be present on. So as opposed to how before, when you're running a campaign, you'd say, okay, exclude XYZ type of content. Now they're saying, I want to pre-approve the places I want my brand to be visible, which also it is a little bit more work, but it's better for the brand because you protect the brand better. So I think there's still a lot that technology can do, and I'm very curious about, was it Bogle? They just launched, they were launching in Nairobi or something, and their platform is built on blockchain. So I'm very curious as to what, I haven't read enough. So it was a highlight of a conversation yesterday. I haven't read enough, but I think they kind of are onto something. So we are looking to see what will that bring about, because if they can, because blockchain is very powerful.
It's an open ledger.
Yes. So if the infrastructure or the way they build a platform can enable better protection of brands and consumers of content, then I think they'll have the leapfrog.
All right, we need to take a quick commercial break, but when we come back, we want to take a look at your personal data. That has also been a negative sign of social media. Is it safe? The unrealistic expectations. And even as a parent, how do we balance an individual's the use of social media and the addiction of it? We'll get to hear from them, but a lot of your tweets and SMSs are also coming through. Keep them streaming at Citizen TV. At Citizen TV Kenya is our Twitter handle. Evans One, you say social media has had a great impact on people's lives, job advertisements, dating, research, communication, tool, among others. That's on Twitter. Lazaro on Twitter used to say, good morning. Social media bullying and addiction is worse than alcohol addiction. Majority of the youth are seriously affected and spending most of their times online, leaving only limited times for their private lives. Let's take a look at SMS 22422. That is our SMS line in case you also want to chime into the conversation. 22422. This is what you have to say on SMS. Komen, you're watching from Eldoret. Good morning to you. The extent of any influence depends on how powerful the recipient's character is. Those who cannot withstand FOMO, that's the fear of missing out, are likely to be driven crazy and must always be on their toes to catch up with anything and anyone. You continue to say that the joy of missing out, Jomo, on the other hand, gives the recipient a peace of mind to focus on what is priority to them, that they can withstand pressure. Although they may not catch up with everything and everyone, it should be a balancing act. Beautiful. Okay, Komen has already teased that next part. How do we balance the use of social media and the addiction of it? If you're a parent, how are you balancing FaceTime for your children? We'd love to hear from you. See you in just a few minutes.